Hello, my name is Tom Wright. I am a volunteer producer at CTN, the cable access television station in Ann Arbor. I have had the honor of working with them for over 10 years. They are now celebrating 50 years of serving our community. Today we are introducing the Ann Arbor Public Schools CMPP Magnet Program videos for broadcast on CTN after a brief hiatus. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I undertook in 1959 to make a better world. That's been my occupation. This was my identification card when I came to Germany in 1948. I discovered war, I discovered poverty, I discovered violence and destruction. I discovered my future. A picture of myself at that time as I was arriving in Germany with my father, and this is in Frankfurt in January of 1948. So the generations, this is, as you were sort of doing, how do you pass the stories around? So I pass the stories. There was a singer who I had been aware of named Paul Robeson. He was quite a remarkable person, had a great voice, and my parents had some records of him singing labor songs and spiritual songs. And then after the war, he was kind of blacklisted because he was friendly to the Soviet Union, and they put him out of the country. They wouldn't let him back. Then he came back to America, was let back, and he was going to be able to sing. And so I was asked to get him a place to sing in Ann Arbor. And I went to the university. Can Paul Robeson, can he sing at the University of Michigan? Oh no, he couldn't sing here. We have a committee that approves singers, and he could not be approved. And so then I went to the Elks Club. Oh no, he could not sing here. Could he sing at the West Park Band Shell? The city said, no, we could not let him sing here. Then I got a letter addressed to me and had some initials on it addressed to me. I opened it. It had the letterhead, a copy of the letterhead of Adolf Hitler, Chancellery, Berlin, saying that if you keep wanting to get that nigger commie to sing in Ann Arbor, you're in deep trouble, stop immediately. Signed German-American Bund, Ann Arbor, Michigan. This was mid-1950s. So did I know there was a Nazi Bund in Ann Arbor, Michigan in the mid-1950s? No, I did not. No. When I got done with high school, I wanted to just get out of Ann Arbor, see the world, go somewhere else. And I was persuaded to stay and continue my education. So in college, I was introduced to political ideas when I saw a gaggle of people holding signs, and I asked them, so what is this about? And they began to explain about academic freedom and faculty people who were being disciplined for refusing to testify to the House Committee on Un-American Activities. And I was wondering, what are these un-American activities? Then they began to introduce me to singers I had never heard of and books I had never heard of, and my education began. After some interaction with these people, they reflected to me that there was really no political discussion of any sort at the university. McCarthyism had pretty much closed down all the political groups. There was no such group that just talked about what's happening politically in the world. And they encouraged me as a freshman, "Oh, Alan, why don't you," I think I was Al, "why don't you start a political group? You can just, get a form and get a few people to sign with you." And so I did that, and we began the Political Issues Club at the University of Michigan in the end of 1954, I think. PIC. And it gradually evolved and became the beginning of the Students for Democratic Society, the SDS. And the Commons is commonly pooled resources self-managed by the users, and it is the common practice all over the world since the world began of how people cooperate to do stuff together. This is not simply a good hippie idea. It is a human practice for thousands of years that the corporations want to take over, privatize the water, privatize the forest, cut down the trees, build up luxury housing that they can make big money out of, like in the northeast of Ann Arbor, the Concord development, where they're cutting down the old growth trees to make 50-some luxury houses, when they say that the objective of Ann Arbor is to have a sustainable development. Cutting down the trees for luxury houses ain't it. So the Commons is an effort all over the world, even in Ann Arbor.
My name is Emmett Daniel Long.
And
Most people call me Dan. I started playing an instrument when I was in elementary school at the traditional time. I was born and raised in the Sandhills of Nebraska, and then went to school there and taught there for the first 3 years of my teaching career. And it was only after that that I moved away and went to graduate school. It was kind of interesting. I started playing, the first instrument I played was percussion. I was a percussionist. And then when I was in maybe 6th or 7th grade, it wasn't Mr. Thompson, it was Mr. Gaston said, "I think I need somebody to play clarinet." And I said, "Well, I'll play clarinet." And then a year later or so, "I need someone to play saxophone." "All right, I can play that." So my musical background was one of a multitude of different instruments. My favorite thing is to make music a part of every child's life. I felt, and still continue to feel, that there never can be too much music in one's life. And I really believe that it's important to open the doors for young people so that music becomes a part of their life, whether they play an instrument or sing, or if they don't. I want music to be a part of their life forever, no matter whether it's they're being active and continuing to be involved in music, or just going to a concert, or listening to music on the radio, or television, whatever it may be. I'm a firm believer that music must be a part of everyone's life, and one of the reasons that I went into music was for that very reason. And when I see young people today involved in music, my great hope is that will be a part of their life, no matter whether they pick up their instrument ever again, just to make sure that it still continues to be a part of them. But music is just a discipline that moves us. It gets inside our hearts, and it gets inside our souls, and it makes us, it takes away pain. If you are involved with music in a way that if you really listen to it or sing or play, it wipes out all other feelings, and it helps us get through those challenging times. If you decide you want to be a music teacher, you must find ways to show the passion that you yourself have for it. Because if you have the ability to show your passion, I'm convinced that it will be contagious, and that it will become passionate for those that you're trying to bring music to. And that was, again, one of the things that was a goal of mine when I walked into the classroom, was to bring and to show the passion that I have for music, hoping that it would become contagious. And sometimes I'll catch myself sitting in the auditorium listening to a piece of music, and it just connects with me somehow. And it's hard to describe. Some people describe it as the aesthetics of music, and there are people who study that moment that gets into your heart and your soul. I cannot describe that moment. That music sort of gives you that spark of energy and moves you to beyond words. But I can tell you, when it happens to me, I know it. I don't know when it's going to happen. It's unpredictable. Sometimes it's when I was conducting. Sometimes it was when I was listening. Sometimes it was when I was playing. But you know when that happens. You just know it. It gives you, it's electrifying. And you recognize it immediately, but it's unpredictable. You just never know when it's going to happen. But when it happens, you know it.
So, can you please say and spell your name?
Diana, D-I-A-N-A, McKnight, M-C, capital K-N-I-G-H-T, capital M-O-R-T-O-N.
What is your birthday, including the year?
March 27th, 1944.
So, where did you grow up, and what were your strongest memories of that place?
Well, I was born and raised in Ann Arbor, and I was born in the house that I was raised in, and a midwife delivered me. And I just, went through all of the public schools, and married, lived in Ann Arbor for a little bit, moved away, and then moved back, and I've been here ever since.
How did your family come to live where you were born?
My grandmother, my father's mother, she bought the house at that time, which was in the 40s, was really kind of unusual for a black family or person to purchase a home in Ann Arbor. And but she was able to do that along with my father. And he was young. He was only a teenager, but he worked. He was in school, but he worked, and they saved their money and to pay the house off. So eventually, I went to school, graduated from high school and went on to college. And then I dropped out of college, and I went, I started working, and then a year later, I got married and started a family. So I got my master's in guidance and counseling, but during that time, just before I finished, I was on a committee and I wanted to be a board trustee, but I didn't know how to go about doing it. I just said I wanted to do it because of how much I was guided and helped in the career that in order for me to go into the career that I was in. And I wanted to give back to the school because of the people helping me. And that was my way of giving back to the school. I mean, change happens, and that's fine, it's good. We need change. But sometimes things just, it overwhelms you when all of these changes are happening. It seems like it's all at one time, but it's not. It's a process that you don't see in the back. Everything is a process, and you never see it in the back of the room. You always see it in the front and like, it's different. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope I didn't talk too
Oh,
long.
no.
That's good. Got some good stuff.
Oh, good. Now, when is the next time?
April, I think.
Is it April?
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't give me a date for that.
April, March or April.
Didn't want to wake up. It was like, oh my gosh, because being retired, I don't know about your folks if they still working or not, but when you're retired, you don't have much where to go,
Yeah.
So you just stay home. But I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. It's a problem you see in Ann Arbor that has not yet been addressed.
There's a lot of things, and let me put it this way. One of them is still the unspoken racism in areas that is not being addressed. People of color, people are people. I don't care what. So what? We are. God made us the same. We just happen to have a different skin color. I've told them everything. I really have. I've always told them, understand what is it that you want out of life. And if you are looking for employment, find something that you love, and it will reward you. Find something that you feel that you can use your skill level. Not what someone tells you have to do, but something that you can do, no matter what it is.
What would you tell your younger self about life?
About life? Grow up. Be yourself and not trying to please everybody else, because the only person you have to please is yourself. And be real. Understand who you are and appreciate who you are. Love yourself first. Nobody else can do it. You can't please everybody, so the only person you can please is yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. This one's so much easier than the other time. But I was sick then. I was really sick. Man.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Russ.
They are going to let
Yeah,
me get your
okay.
lapel.
Enjoyed it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
untangle up.
I don't want to
That
walk
worked
away with
perfectly.
this. Let's see. Zara, Megan, Morgan. Sophie. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, young ladies.
Thank you so much.
First name is Diane, D-I-A-N-N-E. one N and an E. Last name is Kirkpatrick. Very long 11-letter word, which is why my parents gave me a 5-letter first name, so it would fit in forms. So D-I-A-N-E, and then capital K-I-R-K-P-A-T-R-I-C-K. And my father said he'd been called everything except St. Patrick. My life, my working title for my own story for my family of my life is Story of an Unplanned Life, because one thing led to another, and I didn't make a plan when I was a kid, and yet everything seems to have woven together in a very interesting way. I could never see where I was going next, and then suddenly I'd be somewhere. That is the way life is. You don't know what the pattern of your life is until the end. That's in spades what happened to mine. I still can't predict, because there are things like this. Who knew that a former student of mine, Mark Clegg, would recommend me to this program, which links me with the Ann Arbor Public Library and archiving history, which is incredible. I always was interested in history. The things I liked best as a kid was a story that would take a family and, take it through its whole life. And you could build your own path through it. Mother realized that I liked playing around with colors and painting and trying to do things. And I particularly fell in love with finger painting. So when I was 2, she would sit me in a bathtub to give me my bath. She'd turn on the water, she'd put some paper in, and she'd say, okay, you figure it out, and when it's done, call me and I'll come in and we'll put it on the refrigerator and it'll dry and you'll have your picture. That kept me out of her hair nicely, and I have loved, I just have loved scribbling and that kind of thing, and that residue is still in my fingers to a certain extent. It was hard for me to find a way to repay her. I'm somebody that keeps being attracted by the next little thing that catches my attention. There was a period when I came back from Europe and I didn't know what I was going to be able to do, but through contacts with the man who was director of the art, at that time, gallery in Grand Rapids, I was hired on to be education director. So I had to teach the students through a program that would prepare them to see whatever current exhibition we had in the gallery. There was an exhibition of puppets. And at the end of my talking about it and listening to them say what they liked best and so on, I said, would anyone like to try it? And this young man, little kid, came to about here as I was standing, and he raised his hand immediately, and he had been so quiet I thought he wasn't paying attention. Instead, he'd been glued to what was happening. The teacher was at the back of the room, and he instantly said, I would. And he put his hand through that and he began talking to the puppet. And she began crying. It's the first time he'd spoken ever. He found somebody that had listened. I mean, it was just, you get into situations that you didn't expect to get in. They just teach you the breadth and length and variety of humanity. History is history. It's a lot of segments. It's like a very tiny mosaic. But one memory touches another and touches another and touches another. And pretty soon I'm way over here instead of where I thought I was going, which is more that way. One thing led to another. When I went to the art galleries, I looked at all of the older things, but increasingly I was interested in the artists who were experimenting in new media, because the ones that had passed away had been studied to death as far as I could tell, and I couldn't contribute anything new. How would we know about Italian art if we didn't have the recorded writings of those artists? But I had to find a person whose work really challenged me and who I was excited to study, because writing, doing the research and writing the due diligence is not a light thing to do. His name was Eduardo Paolozzi. One of those pieces turned up in a show at the Contemporary Art Gallery, and I saw it and I fell in love with it. So my dissertation was on him. It took me a while to find any college that would even consider having me write on such a contemporary artist. For students, I think the students come in and what you try to do is to share with them in the best way you can what you love about what you are showing them, to show them your interpretation of what is meaningful to you and not worry about the fact whether it's theirs or not, but begin to sharpen their eyes. In other words, bring an assortment of things and get them discussing among them and ask questions and discuss. And out of that comes something that suddenly the penny drops, as the British would say, and they've got it. And it's then theirs for life. Anything they look at will start a train going that will lead them in a direction that will lead to a memory.
Thank you for viewing the Ann Arbor Public Schools CMPP Magnet Program videos.